Welcome back, everybody, to Monster Hunter World. On the last episode, we had our giant introduction to the game. Big cutscenes, we made our character, the hunter who is totally over everything, and our little furry companion of Milo, who's just kind of patting his little rock. We left off having a little tour of the town, but we're going to be going over the town later on when we actually have full freedom. But for right now, we have to actually equip a weapon of our choosing. We didn't have a weapon last time we were out in the field. So the 14 hunter weapons, we're not really going to go over this because it's pretty standard. We have 5 pieces of actual armor. And even though in the character creation we could do leather, chainmail, origin, or guardian, we still actually have those armor pieces available to us. As you see, guardian is significantly more powerful. Even origin is a bit more powerful. But we're not really going to, like I said, we're not going to use those. The important one is weapons, and there are a lot of weapons, and I am not personally well versed in every weapon in the game. So we have the greatsword, which the field team leader that kind of saved us, that's his weapon. The longsword, my personal main weapon in the game, in my actual file. It starts us off with the hunter's knife, a shield and sword, dual blades, a hammer, a charge blade that's very complex, a switch axe, a gun lance, a hunting horn, an insect glaive, a light bow gun, a heavy bow gun, and a bow and arrow. We have 2 other items, but these are all unique to the insect glaive specifically, and I will not be going over those just yet. So I'm not going to be using every weapon in the game, but I'm also not going to be using one weapon in the game. I'm going to be cycling through several weapons that I'm moderately comfortable with, and those will be the ones we're going over. I'll show off every weapon in like a field a little bit later on in this episode, but for now we're actually going to start with my main weapon. We're going to do our first mission or 2 with the longsword. It is the weapon I'm the most comfortable with, it is the weapon I have the most experience with, and it is my personal favorite weapon in the game. It is the one I will be using to start this adventure off. Talk to the handler in the canteen. So our handler is our partner. She'll be with us through the entirety of the journey. The handler is who we'll kind of get quests from. Now that you have access to the armory and provision stockpile, grab what you need. Once you're done, go meet up with your handler in the canteen to sign up for a quest. So we have several facilities, which I'll be going over these. As we came into Astera, we have the provisions stockpile. Oh, nice weapon, buddy. I guess that means it's time to get hooked up with some supplies. We carry pretty much everything you need, so if you're ever short on anything, I'm your guy. But as much as I'd love to take all your zenny, it's still a good idea to gather as much as you can while out in the field. So we can actually gather stuff in the field. We did not see that last time. We'll be seeing that more going forward. We can buy stuff to add to our pouch. Potions are pretty basic. You can find way more items than these in the field, and especially crafting. There is a whole crafting mechanic of crafting items or ammo or anything else in the game. I don't do a ton of crafting, and we won't be seeing a bit of crafting for a while because we'll just be buying generally most of our items. We also have like a giant storage container box that we can just slap all this nonsense in, but since we don't have a whole lot of money, we're not really going to be spending any money at the moment, but just to show it off. There's no one over here. This is another facility we'll be seeing later. Over here, which I didn't go over, is our ecologist. How the lot of you managed to tangle with an elder dragon as dangerous as Zora Magdaros and survive is beyond me. You won't catch me trying any stunts like that. We can't talk to him yet. He'll kind of update our information on monsters we'll locate out in the field. Armory we're not going to go over to yet because there's not going to be too much for us there at the moment. So for now we're going to run up these stairs and go to the canteen, which we didn't really get a good look at because we met our Palico there. But the canteen is where we'll eat. And actually, from the council, we actually have the chef. Aye, welcome to the canteen, the best place for you to boost your hunt. You're from the 5th, right? Well, let me clue you into what the canteen is all about. Gains, health, stamina, whatever. Max gains. Go on and sit down over there at the counter, scrawny. When you're ready to get your pre-hunt on, let me know. This is a big thing. This actually will get upgraded throughout the game doing like smaller side missions or objectives. But yeah, we can actually eat meals, which I'm kind of glossing over tutorials because we'll just kind of explain as the game goes on. We can pay with money, we'll have points later on, and we'll get vouchers. We can actually use any combination of these three to actually get food. So we can get the meat platter, which will up our attack by a small amount. It has food skills, which right now have 0 activation chance. So no matter what these skills are, it won't actually matter because we're not going to get them anyways. But it will up our base stamina by 25. Our health and everything else actually has a base 100 in our menu. Health up in that top right, health, stamina, both 100. If we ate that meal, we would have went into this quest with 125 base stamina instead of 100. They are nice. It gets better as the game goes along, but for right now, let's just talk to our handler. Okay, partner, time to get down to business. The guild teamed us up for a reason. From now on, you're my hunter and I'm your handler. I'm the bread to your butter, got it?
Oh yeah.
The 5th Fleet's first mission is to survey the Jagger's habitat. Then we gotta call a certain number of them in order to secure the area. We can depart as soon as you sign up for the Jaggers of the Ancient Forest quest. You ready?
What are we waiting for? The new world awaits.
A wild and wondrous new world is waiting for us out there, as she said. So there are actually quest boards. We don't need to come talk to our handler every single time to begin a quest. So we don't need to always come all the way up here to talk to her. But yeah, kind of explaining the different quests that are assigned. We'll get optionals. There are investigations, which we'll go over later. Event quests that rotate every week. And special assignments, which we will also be going over a lot later. But for now, assignments. Jaggers of the Ancient Forest. It's a 1-star level mission. Not very hard. Pretty simple. We get 700 Zenny reward money, slay 7 Jaggers. We have 50 minutes. Don't be intimidated by the time limit we have. That's way more time than we're ever going to need. And there was other stuff. It has a party. Pretty much, this game is multiplayer. You are able to play with up to 4 players in a mission. You can do singles, duos, triples, or squads of 4. You need online to do that, which I don't actually have online. So every single quest we play throughout the entire story will all be single player quests. We'll be doing everything solo. So no teams or squads for us. We are a solo hunter. So we are back.
Alright, this is our first job. Let's do a quick review of quest rules. Rule number 1, complete the objective to complete the quest. Easy, right? Each quest has an objective. You can't consider the quest done until you complete that objective. Our current objective is to eliminate a specified number of Jaggers. Let's check the map.
So yeah, she's gonna kind of go over this for us and our map.
On the way to base. The small monsters, remember? I think we saw them somewhere around here. Want to check it out? Rule number 2, use the supply box. The commission supplies us with a loadout of certain items for each quest. They're in the supply box over there. Have a look and decide what you should take along. Ready to go.
So yes, even though we actually brought along potions in our item pouch, we don't actually need to use those specifically in the item box every time you go on a quest. It's very specific.
Hey, partner.
We have first aid meds, which has that little hunter symbol next to it. So that just means that if we take these 4 first aid meds, which we will, and we'll take the easy rations, even if we don't use all 4 of the first aid meds, it will actually make it where when we go back, we're not going to keep them. You only get them on the quest that you're on. And on the bottom right, as you see, we also have our item bar. So we can kind of use the left and right D-pad. You can also actually hold L1 and hit square and circle and shuffle through items as well. I have those on there. The biggest one is the whetstone and really your healing item because you're going to want to be able to heal. And other than that, we have to go back to that area.
Keep in mind that what you're able to do depends on whether
or
not your weapon is drawn.
Before we even go into the fighting, I'm going to show off the longsword. So that is the thing. Triangle will draw our weapon. Or you can kind of go into an attack. Now our movement speed is minimized while our weapon is drawn. So holding R1 allows me to sprint. But if I hold the weapon out with an attack, I cannot. If I hit R1, I'll sheath it and immediately go into a run. So
You
the
can use a
longsword
slinger with your weapon
you
drawn.
attack with, as
But
you
for the
see on the
perfect
top,
moment,
there's triangle and
fire.
circle you can kind of attack with. I can keep shuffling triangle and circle, which we'll go over this with other weapons in the training area later on. But yeah, triangle is our stepping slash, another oversledge slash, a stab, and that's kind of our triangle combo. Circle is only the thrust. Circle does nothing else after that, so you can keep chaining triangle and circle together by doing that. In between attacks, you can also dodge roll, so that is important. You can dodge in really any of the 4 directions. The longsword, so there's a lot to go over here, so sorry that it's kind of crazy. So on the top left, we have our health, our stamina. Below that is that little yellow bar. That is our weapon's sharpness. The sharpness affects our damage multiplier on our weapon, and as we attack, our sharpness will actually decrease. Oh, scout fly. Yeah, whoops. Going the wrong way. And below that is an empty sword gauge. That is unique to the longsword specifically, and we'll be going over that as you'll see in combat. I don't know why I had to run to where the field team leader is. We already knew where to go. Okay, so there is this. So if I can find it, yeah. So our scout fly is highlighted this herb. We can pick these up, and it just puts... In the crafting menu, we actually have potions on autocraft. So anytime we grab an herb, it will automatically craft a potion for us unless we're holding more than 10 or higher. You can only hold 10 potions. Once we hit 10 potions and we pick up an herb, it'll just give us an herb, which we can use to just stockpile more potions. Very good. Always good to pick them up if they're ever spotted, or you ever see them just kind of laying around. And again, as you get close, your scout flies will kind of... Well, yeah, it highlighted that one, but it's also highlighting a thing in front of us as well.
You can gather honey and mix it with a potion to make mega potions.
Yep. And as field team leader said, yep, that turns our potions into mega potions, which all those do is heal more HP. Okay, it's forcing me to crouch. Let's get a move on.
A pack of Jagras.
Not really gonna hide. We're just gonna kind of go into battle.
How you hold up when you're on your own.
So yeah, you kind of fight here, but here's the big thing. As we attack with regular attacks with the longsword, that little empty sword gauge fills up with, you know, red. When that fills up, you can actually use R2 to use spirit attacks. And that is where the longsword gets a lot of its big flurry and combos and big damage off. Now,
Use them at the smithy.
I have to attack these guys to kind of show you. As you attack, that gauge increases as it goes up. Now the entire R2 combo is this: 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if that fourth attack connects, if that fourth attack connects with a target, as you saw, we now have a red aura around that sword gauge. What that does is that actually ups the overall damage on our longsword. It just makes it more powerful. Now if you notice, that yellow sharpness gauge actually dropped down. Now it's orange. This is where the whetstone comes in handy. It's infinite use, and you can just use it, and your character will sharpen the weapon. It does not matter how beat down or anything your entire sharpness gets. It will always replenish your sharpness back up to the absolute maximum. And you'll find stuff around the field. You kind of get more acquainted with the field. That was just a bone pile. We kind of forage it, and we just get some monster bones. Most everything you collect out in the field is useful for making items, crafting, you know, utility, equipment, or big things are things like mining out crafts we haven't seen yet, or especially those bones I picked up will be used to craft armor or other weapons. I don't actually remember what the team leader said, because we have to kill 4 more Jagras. Oh, here you go. Mining outcrops. Same thing. Hold circle, and your hunter will just kind of mine for you. You can mine infinitely. There's no, like, it will never, like, run out. You'll never be like, oh man, but my pickaxe. Now, if you remember in episode 1, we saw people have, like, a slinger on their, what is it, their left arm? Their left arm. You can pick up stuff in the field known as slinger ammo. We picked up red pits. We can actually just shoot these. Holding L2, clicking R2. And that fires our slinger ammo. You can use it to kind of stun enemies or to get their attention or anything else. It's pretty basic. It's helpful. It's not the most helpful thing in the game. But yeah, other than that, we're just trying to kill 7 Jaggers because that's all we need to do.
Use whatever you can.
And yeah, so as our sharpness decreases, our overall damage will actually go down. But as with the longsword specifically, as our spirit gauge goes up, and since it's in the dark red, that's as high as it'll go. That means we're doing the maximum damage we could possibly do right now in the game. And we actually completed the quest. So you see, 15 minutes was way more time than we even needed to do the quest. Because I've been explaining stuff and kind of going over stuff, but we had plenty of time, not very hard. It's the beginning of the game. The game is going to be pretty introductory and not, slam a lot of stuff at you right away. But yeah, and now you just kind of carve bodies of enemies that you kill. Red pits, we can shoot them, does 5 damage. Kind of stuns them a little bit. We actually killed one, which is kind of hilarious. Can we kill another one? I want to kill that one. No. Oh, well. Oh, wait. I think we killed him. Alright, let's cover this body we killed, though, by accident. And yeah, that's the general basics of the gameplay. The combat's pretty basic. It'll get more complex. There'll be more stuff. The big loop is going out and killing monsters and getting new armor, which we'll be seeing pretty soon. We're still gonna kind of wait. And then there's this. You get quest rewards at the end of quests. So pretty basic stuff. Jagger scale, sharp claw, just generic stuff. Armor sphere we'll go over later. Blue mushrooms, just item in the field. Mandragora, you can find these items in the field. Bitter bugs can find in the field. Matcha light ore, again, mining outcrop, you can find it. It'll give you items of monsters you've killed or stuff along what your goal of the mission actually was supposed to be. Just things like that. It just gives you a little extra items. So like if you're looking for specific items or materials that you'll end up needing, it's not a big deal because you can either carve it from the monster or you have a potential percentage chance of getting it from the quest rewards. There are bonus rewards, but those will be going over when we fight kind of bigger monsters, when we get into a little bit more of the mechanics of the game. Fine work taking down those Jaggers. So there's no difference in their habitat, but their numbers are increasing. I see. It may be stating the obvious, but the Jaggers aren't the only danger lurking around these parts. We've also received reports of a Kestodon herd getting out of hand. This must all be because Zora Magdaros made landfall. It's got everything riled up.
Listen up.
Well, it's going to be your job to quiet them down. We'd like you to investigate this Kestodon herd and cull their numbers. I'm going along. Wouldn't want you to get hurt. Thanks, field team leader. Okay. So it's going to ask us if we want to now go into an online session, but we actually don't want to because, as I mentioned, I don't have online. So, not overly important to us. Now, it says that there's an appreciation festival. I wouldn't worry about that. That's actually just content going on in the game right now. So, like, if you watch this video way later on, that won't actually be in the game at that point unless you watch at the time that festival actually is live. So we won't be worrying ourselves with that. And every day you log in, you'll get a little bonus. It lets you know little updates to the game, lucky vouchers, which you can use a lucky voucher when you go on a quest, and it doubles the money you would earn on the quest. So a quest would give you like 1,000 zenny. This is all just tutorial stuff of the festivals going on in the game because it's a new file, so it's letting you know what it is. But we won't be going over those really till later in the game. So yeah. There's a lot to look at now because we have to now speak to the smithy. This is where we're going to go into the tutorial with the smithy. But we can also talk to people around town. So the 5th has arrived. Greetings there. I'm the airship engineer at the 2nd Fleet. I work on flying machines, airships, and what have you. I'm sure you're curious about why you haven't met a member of the 3rd yet. That's because they've all been stranded for years. It wasn't long after the scholars from the 3rd Fleet landed before they insisted upon crossing the Great Ravine. So they got their ship converted into an airship, and off they went. It was going well until just after they crossed the ravine. A flying monster attacked their airship and grounded them. Sure, they were reckless to go, but seeing as I'm the man who put them in the air, I can't help but feel partly responsible for it all. Ever since then, I've been working on making a better airship, one that we could use to go rescue them. Between the New World's nasty weather and the strong winds hurtling down the ravine, it's been one failure after another. Still, you won't catch me calling it quits. So, little lore. So there's the third fleet here, but we haven't seen anybody because apparently they're stranded and grounded somewhere.
My.
There you go, newcomer. You look a lot more hunterly with a weapon on your back. This is the armory. We deal in ready-made weapons and armor. If you need a weapon ASAP and don't have time to gather the materials, we're your ticket. So, newcomer, care to have a look? So yeah, we can just buy armor outright. Like, we can buy leather if we didn't have it. We could buy the chainmail if for some reason you sold it. We can even buy the defender armor, which again you already have. So I don't really know why you would buy it, honestly. And we can purchase weapons of any weapon type in the game. But the game also gives you the base form of every weapon in the game already. So we're not going to really concern ourselves with that. So, now let's talk to the actual smithy himself.
There you are, Fiber.
Aha, look who's back with materials. Step right up and welcome to the smithy. You'll be needing my services a lot. What I do for you is simple, and he's true. We'll need him a lot. Whenever you go out in the field and gather materials, I turn those materials into weapons and armor. Drop by whenever you find something new and interesting. Here, I'll give you some materials as a welcome present. You can use them to upgrade your equipment. So yeah, he's gonna forge us all of our cool stuff. He does give us free items, but he won't let me check right now. So we can upgrade. So here's big menu stuff going on. So we have all the leather stuff equipped, which is pretty cool. We go into our helmet. So when we beat that quest, we did get an armor sphere. Armor spheres are what you use to actually upgrade your armor's stats. So if you're ever having a trouble fighting a monster because your defense just isn't high enough, here you go. You earn armor spheres, and there will be other ways to earn them than just doing what we did before. But now our headgear gives us 4 more defense than anything else we actually wear. So it's honestly pretty good. It's a good way to up your defense if you find yourself struggling to beat certain monsters. Now with a longsword, weapons are way different. You don't use armor spheres on weapons. So right now we have the Iron Katana 1, which with the stats has yellow sharpness, a base 264 attack, no affinity, which is technically your critical hit ratio, like how likely you are to land a critical hit, has no elements, and then the other 2 things are other stats we'll be going over way later in the game. They're not relevant right now, and they're not relevant to us anytime soon. But we did get some iron ore for that quest, and what we found by mining that outcrop. The Iron Katana 2 is 297 with a little bit of green sharpness. So it is stronger, and the higher your sharpness level, the higher of a damage multiplier it gives you. I don't remember the exact damage multiplier sharpnesses give. I'll put somewhere on screen right now the damage multipliers each level of sharpness has, and it'll also give you spoilers of what other colors of sharpness we'll see later on in the game. But for now, we are going to upgrade the Iron Katana 2. We'll upgrade to it. And we'll be skipping this going forward, but there's just this little cutscene of them forging. It's going to be the same every time, but it just kind of shows you them making the weapon. And honestly, the Iron Katana doesn't look terribly much different. I mean, honestly, it doesn't even look different at all to what we already had. Now we actually have a branching path here. We can make the next weapon, which we actually can't. It will not show you any stats of the next weapon unless you have gathered all the materials of the item that you want to craft. So because there is an ore, and you can tell it's an ore based on the symbol that you can see there, since it's the same as the matchalite ore, and the iron ore, you can assume that the top item is another ore we have yet to locate yet. So we don't know how strong it is, what it looks like, its sharpness levels, or anything else. But down here is a mystery tree. These have different symbols, and we don't have any of those. So that one we will also be going over later. Now, we can only do stuff of the ore tree starting from the Iron Katana we already had. But down here we have the bone tree. It doesn't give us any ability to craft this item or anything else. It is actually just as strong as the katana we just made, but it does not have green sharpness. So, in the end, that actually means that it is weaker. But this one, and this one we know we can craft because it shows us the item we need, but it says cannot upgrade to this node. So we can't make this weapon yet, and I'll explain that in a minute. But this weapon does not have green sharpness and has 330 attack. Now, I don't know the exact damage calculations of if this weapon is actually stronger or not. Do you prefer more sharpness, or do you prefer more base damage? Whichever one is stronger is more meant for mathematical people that will be able to break that down. But since we're in the early game, the damage we're doing is not overly important. Now, the way to make that weapon is, yes, we can now forge equipment. And it's slamming tutorials that it's just left and right, which I'll explain this. So if we go to forge and we go back to longsword where we were at, so if I go back to the tree, we cannot forge any weapon here. Like, I can't forge the iron katana 2 that we already just upgraded to. You can only forge weapons that have this little hammer next to them. And also, yeah, the defender weapons are insanely strong. The defender weapons akin to the armor. It's stronger to the point where it's allowing you to get through the base game a lot faster. But here is where we would make the bone shoulder one. So if we make this one, we'd have 2 longswords, and we'd be able to then upgrade farther into the bone tree, which includes all of these weapons. But we're going to stick with the iron katana for now because we are actually going to rotate our weapon to something else for this next mission. So, and there is armor. So armor, we have the leather and chain, but now we have a hunter's armor, and you can always hover over the entire set and hit square, and you can change the aesthetic of what your hunter looks like. Because there's what chainmail looks like, here's what the new hunter armor looks like, here's what bone armor looks like, and here is what an armor that is a part of that festival that we're not going to partake in, but it is, as you can see, it is way stronger than what we have, but we're not going to worry about that one because we can't make it anyways, so it's not relevant to us anyways. So the other big thing with armor is that armor has elemental resistances, and this is going a lot into detail of just kind of the tutorial of how everything works, but once we kind of get past the initial shock of this, it'll be kind of quick with cycling through things that we kind of work on and get through and look at and make and craft and etc, etc. It'll be pretty standard pretty soon. So the hunter's armor is not actually stronger, but if you remember, we actually upgraded our leather helmet, so that's why it's not stronger. You can always click L3 and compare it. So it's comparing the elemental resistances, the defense level, and now we have a thing called skills. Skills are huge. Huge, 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 huge. Later in the game, it will become more viable to have an item with better skills than higher defense. Because the skill you are getting on the armor is so good, you won't care that it is defensively weaker than what you're wearing. So, the big thing here is, going over skills, our hunter's headgear has scout fly range up. Only 1 level, which is fine because that's all we have, because we have the green. Expands your scout fly's detection range. Pretty good for looking for stuff. Pretty useful, very good utility. But the hunters, or not the hunter, our leather headgear has hunger resistance. Reduces the maximum stamina depletion over time, however does not work against cold environments that reduce stamina. Extends the time your stamina cap decreases by 50%. Not overly helpful. Honestly, there are a lot of kind of throwaway whatever skills. This is one of them. I wouldn't really care to remember what hunger resistance is because it's very negligible in that case, but I'm not going to get that one yet. Slinger capacity, another new skill. Increases the loading capacity for slinger ammo collected from the ground or plants. So the red pit that we collected, we got 15 ammo. Having this skill would give us, I don't know how much more, it would give us a little bit more slinger capacity ammo, obviously. We have stealth. Makes it slightly easier for monsters to lose sight of you, kind of like in episode 1 when we hid in the bushes to hide from the Jagras. As I mentioned last time, stealth is not a overly important thing and it's kind of forgettable. So another throwaway skill in the game, unfortunately. Scent Hound increases gauge fill rate by 50%. Increases your scout fly's gauge fill rate when you find tracks and other traces left by monsters. So with finding bigger monsters, you have to find a bunch of tracks, scents, and stuff they leave behind. This ability makes it where you have to collect less of that to locate said monster. Pretty helpful, pretty standard. I wouldn't call it overly helpful, but maybe you might find it helpful. I mean, you are allowed to play however you want. I personally wouldn't run this myself, but there's no reason you couldn't. And we have Barbecue Master. This I will probably never ever show off, and I've only done it once because it's related to a trophy, but it improves your skill at cooking meat, makes it easier to cook well done steaks. Well done steaks are kind of like the easy rations. They just increase your stamina cap. So kind of a throwaway skill. So most ability on the Hunter's Armor is kind of throwaway. None of it is overly helpful to us as a player. Chainmail, we could go over their skills. I'm not going to go over every single skill, just kind of showing you the Hunter's Armor. While it would be defensively stronger, its abilities are kind of trash. But you're not always going to get the best abilities, and you don't want to get armor that is like mountains weaker than what you're currently wearing for an ability. There will come a point later where we will be able to better customize our abilities. So I wouldn't worry about it now. You could just go for the higher defense stat just because it would make you more tanky. At this point of the game, especially at the very beginning, it's all negligible to us. But the bone armor is what I want to draw attention to. So bone armor has health boost. Very good skill. Increases health. So with that canteen increasing our base stamina for the mission by 25, this increases our base health from 100 to 115. And this isn't per quest. As long as we're wearing this helmet with this ability, we have that plus 15 to our health indefinitely. Very good. Attack boost. So improves attack power, also improves affinity, critical hit chance at higher levels. So with this, at level 1, it only ups our attack by 3. Pretty negligible, but we're early game. That little extra attack might make a big difference in your hunt of just getting a little bit more damage off. And we can actually make it. And that's the thing. I am going to make the bone mail. Its defense is better. Its resistances are higher. It gives us a skill that's actually better than what we had, which is nothing. Literally, like our leather armor literally has no ability except for hunger resistance on our helmet, which is throwaway. So we are going to make the bone mail because it is stronger and it gives us a good skill. But now since we use that, we now can't make anything else. And really, the gloves have a good ability of Slugger. It ups your stun power by 20% to stun monsters when they're trying to attack you. Pretty good. Can't make it, unfortunately. And I would also go for a health boost, but I can't make anything else right now. So that's why I wanted to bring attention to the chest piece, because that's what we're going to use for now going forward till we find something else. Oh man, there is a lot at the beginning of the game that I had totally forgotten about. Pendants are nothing. They give you no stat buffs, no stronger skills. They are just accessories. They're just to kind of bedazzle your weapon. So do it or don't. That's all up to you. And now our Palico. Our Palico can also wear different armor, but his is way less complicated than us because he has no skills. He's currently using the leather stuff as we were. But if we look at his bone, you know, melee goes up by 4, range stays at 2, it's an attack type of blunt, which will make a difference, which we'll see later. I'll go over that when we get there. Armor is stronger. Alloy, range is better than melee, stronger, but bad resistances. And star set is the appreciation thing. Don't worry about it, we're not going to go over that. So changing his armor is important, but honestly not as important as changing your own. You are more important because your Palico dying in the quest doesn't matter. It only matters if you die. So, really quick, to make this organization a little bit better, I am going to sell. And this is the hard part. I am going to admit to you straight now, right away, to your face, that we will never use the gun lance. We will never use the lance. We will never use the hunting horn. We will never use the bow gun, nor the heavy bow gun, nor the bow. We will never use those weapons again. And we're not going to use the chainmail. I'm going to sell these as well because we are not going to switch to the chainmail because we're already upping our equipment a little bit. You don't need to sell old stuff. You can honestly keep it if you want. That is all by choice. And we replace the leather mail. I'm going to get rid of that as well. Now, that's important. So, these are the weapons I will be shuffling through in the game. I am proficient with the longsword, the hammer, the insect glaive, and the switch axe. I am not very good with the charge blade. I am not very good with the dual blades. I am not good with the shield and sword. And I am not good with the greatsword. But I'm going to learn those weapons. That way we keep some variety of what we're going to use. We did upgrade our katana. We are going to use the longsword for one more quest. Also, why do you have an exclamation point?
There you are, Fiver.
I got some big news for you. Oh, this isn't huge. This is like a little extra add-on later in the game. This wasn't in the base game at all. This is layered armor. So as you saw when I changed my chest piece, my armor and aesthetic changed. This isn't going to matter to us for a long time, and it honestly will never matter to us until we get near the end of this playthrough. But you are able to aesthetically change it. So if I had appreciation tickets, we could actually wear that suit, and that would be our armor. It would not affect our stats. It would not affect our skills. It would just change how we aesthetically look, i.e. layered armor. But we're not going to be doing that either. So, getting right into this, there's nothing else really important to us now. We could empty our item box. I'm not going to bring most of these with me because I don't really ever need them. I'm really only going to bring potions, an antidote just in case we get poisoned, and rations in case our stamina ever drops. Ammos and coatings are for bows and bow guns, but as I mentioned, we're never going to use the bow or bow gun, so these are also negligible to us as well. I will not be using them. So, with all that out of the way, and all that pretty set in stone, we are now going to go on our next quest, because we don't need really quick, let's go see if the other facilities are up and running, and I'll show off a couple more things before we go on our next quest. Although we unfortunately have to speak to the handler, I guess. There's other people in town to talk, but I want to make sure we get into our quest, so I'm going to save talking to more NPCs later. And okay, there are other people to talk to, but our other facilities are not up and running, so I'm not going to make it a point to do those just quite yet, because we'll eventually be getting to those. So for now, we're just going to go speak to the handler and get to our second quest, because that's definitely more important.
Hey there, partner.
Right, so the next thing we need to take care of are those Akestodon. The chief said he'd be tagging along with us. How about we start our search in the ancient forest and go from there? Oh, and I've got some good news. We handlers post all the leads we find up on the quest board. You can sign up for quests there too, so you don't always have to come all the way up here. The same thing I mentioned where these quest boards that are located throughout town, we can go to those instead of talking to the handler every time, because she's way out of our way being all the way up to the canteen. Because we have to come into town a little bit, go all the way up the staircase, and talk to her, and it's just way out of the way.
We're on the hunt.
So yes, posting our next quest. We now have an optional quest, but not really. Optional quests just allow you to repeat quests we've already done. And you're like, wait, but just do it from assigned, right? In assigned, we actually can no longer redo the Jaguars of the Ancient Forest. We would have to go do the optional quest to redo that one. But our next one, a Kestodon kerfuffle. Zora Magros' appearance has driven a herd of Kestodon to new territory. We'll need you to go out and thin that herd of headbutters. Yep, still same thing. And the same thing I mentioned with vouchers. It doubles your money. It technically increases your drop rate. So, but we're not really worried about those right now. We're just going to go into the quest and just do things like normal. And we just kind of wait to stand by. So, yeah, that's a lot to begin the game with. Sorry if episode 1 was kind of bland with just character customization and opening cutscene. And I'm sorry, this episode is very, very heavy on the tutorials and explanations. There's a lot to this game, and it definitely will not get this explanation heavy later on. Especially once we start shuffling weapons and just have to go out and collect materials. Because if I'm using several different weapons, we're going to have to hunt monsters to constantly upgrade. So these things are I believe, the Kestodon. So as you see, our weapon is already... These are not Kestodon. Whoops. Oh, I know where they are. This part's a little confusing because Kestodon are not what the game would consider large monsters. Wait, what? Well, I'm not lost. I know where I'm going.
There we are.
Okay, so there's a Kestodon.
Let's see you take him out on your own.
So he wanted us to like look at that first one to kind of know what we were doing. And as you see, our green sharpness and our higher damage is doing a lot of damage. Like, it's really making a difference in combat for how much damage we're doing. And we can carve the monster. And again, as we do more of this, we just get stronger with our sword gauge, because that's the unique trait to the longsword. And we will keep carving these bodies just to have more items, because whenever you get a new item, the first new item will always give you that little like paragraph description of like little information behind it. And it's just kind of cool. Okay, just in case, let's check out their usual grazing grounds near the shoreline. So you would just kind of open your map and you would go along the shoreline, but it's right here. We know where we're going. The lock-on system it shows where if you click R3, you'll lock onto the closest monster to you.
Life around here can come in handy during a hunt.
Yeah.
Try to learn as much as you can about them.
Your choice. The lock-on is kind of finicky, where when you click R3 to lock on, you don't want to like flick the analog stick because it'll rapidly switch to a different monster. So it's kind of your discretion of which one you would find better and easier to use.
Be careful.
Okay. And they didn't really cause a problem to us last time, so I'm not really worried about them. I mean, there's a bigger group, and we'll eventually take damage. There will be other stuff to show off with the longsword. I'm just still kind of waiting. Well, I guess I could kind of talk about them there. So, that Kestodon has a harder head, and our sharpness has definitely dropped into red. And when our sharpness is low enough, it actually makes it where it will bounce off the monster. And as you saw, our damage was way lower because we finally dropped sharpness levels. Also, now we're definitely taking some damage. I'm kind of using other longsword tech, but I'm kind of like holding that off for now because we'll be going over a lot of that more later once we get to the training area that I keep referencing. But that's where I'm going to really start showing off the other weapons. And once we especially use weapons I'm not familiar with, I'll definitely get a lot worse at fighting efficiently. It'll be pretty funny, honestly.
Our work here. Wait. Hey, come here.
Alright, cover these bodies. So, the longsword has a very unique mechanic called the Foresight Slash. It's a huge... I think it's a new move to this game specifically, and it's one of my favorite moves. So your spirit moves with R2. If you have a little bit of red gauge in your sword gauge, which we have about, half a bar, if you hit R2 and circle at the same time, as you saw, your character will reel back and kind of dodge and then into a slice. So it kind of does this. Also, never mind. I'll show you after the cutscene. Looks like Great Jagger's tracks.
Look at those Kestodon. Something's up over there.
Great Jagger is the thing that attacked us on our way to headquarters. Alright. New assignment available, the Great Jaggers hunt. We are actually able to go hunt the Great Jaggers now, but I'm not going to.
If you're not ready,
So,
you can return to base and take on the Great Jaggers quest later.
we'll grab some more ore to upgrade other weapons. So yes, to explain this last thing before we head back, the longsword
select SOS flare to signal it.
So if you have some red sword gauge during any move of the longsword, like doing this, you can hit R2 and circle together, and that'll happen. If you have red sword gauge, you will dodge and then retaliate with a counterattack. The cool thing is, if you have the red sword gauge and you use the foresight slash during an attack that's hitting you, you'll counter it, take no damage, or if it's a bigger attack, reduce damage and counter. So as you know, using that red sword gauge, we have to do damage. We have to do the final kind of spinning around attack to increase our sword level. To up our color to do more damage. If you counter a monster with the foresight slash and hit them, and you'll know you'll counter because you'll hear like a bing, and your character will kind of flash blue really quick, and you hit the enemy, your red gauge will instantly fill. And if you hit R2 again, you'll go into a spinning into the round slash. And that will instantly raise you a sword level. It takes a lot of practice, and it's a really great longsword tech. And if you end up using the longsword as your main weapon, I would highly recommend just practicing. You're gonna get hit, you're gonna take some damage, and it's gonna kind of mess you up pretty frequently, if I'm gonna be honest, because it takes a lot of practice. But once you get it down, it is probably the best mechanic of the longsword, in my opinion. It's one reason why it's my favorite weapon in the game. But with that, this episode was very tutorial heavy, and we are not going to go hunt the Great Jaggers right now. We are going to return to town, which is easy. Just pull up the menu and return from quest. Return from the quest will still give us all the items we found, our quest rewards for completing the quest, and unfortunately every item you used will also go away if you had used any. So we just get some Kestodon items, not too bad, pretty basic. Our reward money, research points, which we'll go over later. Our Palico does get stronger, and trophies, and gadget proficiency isn't something I've gone over yet. It's the little rock tool our Palico has. He'll drop these kind of green bug rocks on the ground, and if we attack those or use our knife on them, it'll give us health back. It's a really cool way just to kind of have your Palico heal you while also you're fighting. In case you run out of healing items, it's really nice to use in the meantime. So yeah, like I said, we went over a lot. We upgraded our armor slightly. We took down the Jaggers that we had to hide from first episode, and we thinned out the Kestodon numbers just slightly, and now we have a bigger target for next time. So, next time on Monster Hunter World, on Let's Play Monster Hunter World, we will accept that quest, the Great Jaggers Hunt. So I will see you guys next time for when we tackle the Great Jaggers. Till then.